All right, everyone, give me 1 minute. We are working on getting everyone in still. Thank you for your patience. All right, so we are going to go ahead and begin. Welcome to junior night for the class of 2026. This is one of our most exciting evenings of the year that the counselors get to put on. It is the start of your journey, juniors, for college and that preparation. So welcome. We have a really great lineup tonight. Of just a wealth of knowledge, right? So the people that are on this presentation have so much information to give, and they're excited to give it to you. So we'll go ahead and begin right now with just the counselor breakdown at Claremont High School. Hopefully you all know your counselor already. I am Mrs. Vogel. I have the alpha breakdown CHOJ to GOM, but you can go ahead and find your counselor here. Again, hopefully you know who your counselor is after the past couple of years. And so go ahead and look there. We could not do this event without our wonderful Miss Stevenson or Ms. Talamantes. They are our support staff, and they are absolutely amazing. So we appreciate everything that they do for us. All right. So we're so glad you're here. Our full presentation will be on the school's website, hopefully by the end of the week. And then we also have a chat. So please make sure questions that you have, go ahead and place all of those questions in that chat. And we will be answering them live. So we will be answering each one of your questions through that chat. At the end, we might have some time for a little bit of Q&A. Full disclosure, this event honestly typically goes the full runtime, if not a little bit over. Again, I know I mentioned it already, but bear with us. This is the first time that we are doing this presentation via Meets. And so there is actually a little bit of a lag time. There's about 30 seconds from when I'm saying this right now until when you're going to actually hear it. So that might kind of stump me up a little bit, in all honesty. All right, tonight is a great evening to keep an open mind. You're going to hear a bunch of different options regarding your next steps, and it's important that you are hearing all of it, right? You might have in your mind, no, I'm going to a UC, or a Cal State's right for me, or a community college is right for me. After tonight, I'm hopeful that everyone sees that there's a lot of options out there. So please make sure that you guys are hearing what each one of these presenters has to say. The slides will be on the website, so you can go back later and look at those slides as well. All right. So here are some important dates for juniors. This is kind of a checklist, more or less, of the next steps that you all have going into your senior year. And that first thing that we see is being here tonight, right? Which is awesome. So junior information night, kicking off that college application kind of thought process, more or less. Believe it or not, next week, we're going to start registration for your senior year, which is awesome. Counselors, we are going to be counselors will be in your classes, juniors. And we are going to also have a parent evening via Zoom. It will be completely different than this presentation this evening. So please make sure you join us on February 6th. Seniors, you will also be getting this checklist in your classrooms. So please just know that you're going to be getting the checklist in those classrooms, and that you don't have to take a screenshot of this, and you're going to know what is going on. I think every time I click to the next screen, my camera goes off, so I apologize if you don't have or see anyone on the screen talking to you. All right, so a couple of important things. I really want to take a couple of minutes. We need to talk about balance. Try to remember that you're going to get where you belong as long as you're healthy, right? We don't want to be pushing ourselves to the limit every single day and where we can't be successful. Sleep is so important, so make sure you're getting enough of that. You can exercise to decompress, right? Take some breaks. I know that for me, if you're my student and we've talked about like a study schedule, it is so important that we are taking those breaks. I actually build them in for my students because I know how important that is. So please make sure that you guys are taking those breaks. Eating well, staying organized. Hopefully this evening is going to kind of start to spark some of that organizational process for you. Practicing good habits, ask for help. I said this in a meeting earlier today of, you know what, it is so important that we ask questions. I ask probably 100 questions a day. Just ask my colleagues, right? And it's not a sign of weakness. I see it as a sign of strength, right? Because if you don't know something and you don't ask, you can't grow from that. And that's a huge part of life. Students, that's not just in the classroom, but it's a part of life after high school, in college, even in the workplace. And progress, not perfection. We just got to keep moving forward. All right, so we are going to go ahead and start with our school links presentation. I believe I'm going to go ahead and start this unless Mr. Trosh, you are ready to start this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start. So what is School Links? Hopefully most of you guys have a little bit of an idea of what that School Links is. It is a college and career readiness platform. It is a transition from Naviance. So parents, if you had a student here at CHS in the last, I don't know, 6-7 years, we did previously use Naviance. This is a transition from it. You just sign on with Google. Again, students, hopefully most of you guys have already logged in your homerooms. All right, so to log in, all you got to do, you're going to go to that Claremont High School website. You can go to the counseling department and you're going to go ahead and click on School Links. All right, it is extremely important that you are signing in via the Google, with your Google sign-in. All right, so here we are. Here's our School Links. This is what it's going to look like. And students, it is extremely important that we start to get comfortable on this platform. It's important that you know how to use it. If you have any questions, you guys can ask us, because this is really how you're going to be doing, how teachers and staff are going to be putting in your college letters of recommendation. And it's also important because this is where we're creating our college list. So it's really great if you want to start now to get comfortable with it. All right, you can see that we already have to-do lists. We have that January one, which is favorite careers, and you can go in and just start this already. All right, completing the Find Your Paths assessment, and all of this, parents and students, is to start to really help know where you're at and to know what colleges, right? We're going to look for colleges on this platform as well. All right, so this is that Find Your Path. Here's a career center. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, and these are all already on your School Links if you look at it now. All right, so planning your life after high school. So your post-secondary planning and your college search. Question to ask yourself while starting your post-secondary planning. What types of colleges do you want to apply to? What are my post-secondary options? Where do I start looking for colleges? All right, these are all really good questions to start asking yourself now. Some things that are really great to consider. How big of a school am I looking at? Do I want a school of 30,000 people? Do I want a school of 3,000 people? And using School Links, we can actually put all of these important things in there. All right, you can look at school size, location, US region, what sports do they have? GPA admissions, test scores, acceptance rates, those tuitions, the graduation rates. And then what degrees do they offer? Do they have a bachelor's degree? Do they have an associate's degree? Do they have a certificated program? All right, and this is actually how you're going to do that search. All right, so again, our goal for you is to have a complete solid list. All right, so what we're looking at is schools that we would likely be accepted to. So 75th percentile of admitted students your GPA falls into, and the school usually accepts more than 50% of its applicants. A target school, we normally recommend applying to 3 of these. And then looking at test scores, GPA, again, and or class rank to find that fit, maybe 50-50. You fall in kind of in the middle of their acceptance rate. And then finally a reach school, right? And it's so important to have a complete list. We don't want you to just have likely schools. We don't want you to just have reach schools. But we really want you to be able to have, those goals, but also what is most realistic. All right. We also do have a counseling YouTube channel where we will be putting this presentation as well as putting our classroom presentations. All righty. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Miss Posey, and she is financial literacy and loan coordinator from Cal State Dominguez Hills.
Can you hear me, Christy? Can you see me?
I can. Perfect.
Okay, great. Are you going to move it for me or do I move it?
I will. You can go ahead and move it. Or sorry,
Excellent.
I will. Just go ahead and tell me when the next slide.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello out there in the Microsoft Teams universe. So all our juniors. So my name is Rhoda Posey, Financial Literacy and Loan Default Coordinator at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. Financial aid can seem overwhelming at times, so this presentation is geared to be kind of like fun and friendly and give you a foundation that you need as you try to move forward with your college careers. So here we go. Understanding financial aid one little bite at a time. Next slide, please. There you go. All right, so our topics, 3 quick ones. What, when, and how, right? What is financial aid? Okay, when do you apply? How do you apply? Right? And then next, once you apply, show me the money, right? What kind of money is out there? What are types of aid that are out there? And then lastly, what will you need? What kind of documents or information will you need? Okay, next slide. Okay, so what, when, and how, right? What is student financial aid? When and how should you apply? Next slide. So here we go. So what is student financial aid? We got the dollar signs there, right? At the end of the day, student financial aid is money, right? In the center there, under the apple, it's money that's offered to help you pay for your educational and personal expenses while you're in school. And then that last column there, what are those expenses? What do those look like? Well, you got to pay for your tuition and fees. That's the cost for your classes. You got to pay for some books, maybe some supplies. Food, you got to eat. You may or may not be living on or off campus, right? Unless you're commuting from home. You're going to have some personal expenses, gas, cell phone, etc., right? Financial aid can help you cover these costs. Next slide. Okay, this is important. When should you apply? So right now we're in the month of January. So take a look at this slide. You're going to apply in the fall, right? I got you the cute little Halloween images there to kind of embed it in your mind. Oh, around Halloween time, October. That's what Ms. Rhoda said, right? So fall 2025 for you because you guys are juniors. So you're going to be applying in the fall of your senior year, right? In the center there, under the pumpkin, the priority filing period is for 2026-27, which will be your freshman year, 2026-27, right? Oh, thank you for pointing the arrow there. October 1st through March 2nd. So October 1st, 2025 through March 2nd. That's your window. Okay. And then on the far right there, important. This is important. You have to reapply for each new academic year, right? So you don't stop with just one application. Every year you're reapplying for aid and with the same window of time, October 1st through March 2nd, unless there's something published by the school or the state like, oh, we've extended that deadline date. Okay, great. Next slide. So how do you apply? Okay, so you're going to apply online, right? So looking under that first column there online, you can apply using your PC, your laptop, your iPad, your tablet, your cell phone even, right? There's 2 primary applications. In the center there, there's the FAFSA application for anyone who's a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. Got the link in the QR code there. for a YouTube video about what's the FAFSA. And then once you go there, there's a bunch of other useful videos, right? And then on the far right, we have here in California, the CalDream Act application, or CADA. That's for anyone who's undocumented and they meet the AB 540 criteria. They can do the CADA application to be considered for state aid and scholarships. I should say for the FAFSA, you're considered for federal aid and state aid. Okay, next slide. All right, a little note for CADA for mixed status families. You might be saying, what's a mixed status family? Okay, here we go. I took this directly from the CSAC website. So mixed status family. A mixed status family is if you're a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, but maybe your parent or later your spouse doesn't have a social security number, right? So the message from the California Student Aid Commission is if you have parents or a spouse who does not have an SSN, right, and they may be a non-SSN FAFSA contributor, you might be facing some challenges, some difficulties about do I apply or do I not, right? Just wanted to let you know on the California side, CSAC and their partners are working to provide state protected ways for you to still apply for financial aid and go to school. So here's a QR code on the website. You're going to want to monitor any updates on this page. Okay, next slide. Okay, so lastly, when it comes to applying, there are some colleges they may ask you for what's called the CSS profile. What is that, right? So on the far left there, first column, the CSS profile is something that's maintained by the College Board, and it's an online application used by just some schools, not all, but by some colleges to award non-federal institutional aid. Okay, non-federal institutional aid. And when should you apply? Right? Well, it's around the same time you're doing your FAFSA or your CADA, right? Around October 1st, okay, during your senior year. So come the fall, right? But here's the but, right? Some colleges may have different deadline dates. So how do you know, right? What college wants the CSS profile, what are their deadline dates? Well, I give you the QR code here on the right, how to check for the college that requires it. You got the QR code, take a screenshot of that. There's also a link that's embedded, and I know this presentation will be available for you. Now, notice here at that link down at the bottom, it says cssprofile.collegeboard.org/about. So you have to go to the page that says about, and then as you scroll down just a little bit, there's a section where you can actually select the link and you can look at the participating schools. Okay, next slide. Okay, here you go. Fun slide, application filing example. Okay, so this is another important tip, right? So my little note up there for you. Note you're going to basically be reapplying for financial aid 1 year in advance, right? In preparation for the next. Like my little underline there, you're applying 1 year in advance in preparation for the next, right? So let's take that first row. So academic year, this will be for you, 26, 27, right? That'll be your freshman year. So notice the 2026-27 application is going to cover August 2026 through June of 2027, right? So what are the semesters or the terms? Fall 2026, spring 2027, summer 2027, right? So that's the academic year. But notice the priority filing period. That priority filing period is going to come later this year, October 1st, 2025 through March 2nd, 2026, right? What's the goal? You want to get that application submitted before you start your freshman year next year, right? And then you can see the pattern for 27, 28. It'll cover August of 2027 through June of 2028. So it covers fall 2027, spring 2028, summer 2028, right? And then that filing period is October 1st, 2026 through March 2nd, 2027. Again, what's your goal? You're applying. So basically, you're going to be applying in your freshman year, and you're applying before you start your sophomore year. Okay. And you can see the pattern there. This slide will be available for you. Okay. Next slide. All right. Couple of tips. Tip. So first tip, financial aid applications submitted after March 2nd will still be processed. I repeat, they'll still be processed. Sometimes students, they come to us and just like, oh, I didn't know I applied late. Will you still process this for us? Yes, we will. But just know that if you do apply late, you kind of might miss out on some things, right? You might miss out on receiving some types of aid. So if you can avoid it, apply within that window, October 1st to March 2nd. Next slide. Okay, here's a fun one. Tip number 2, no matter what you may be thinking, right? I know you guys are juniors now. You're like, Miss Rhoda, what you talking about? No matter what you're thinking about right now, hey, I'm tired, right? Or later down the line, right? Hey, I'm tired, I need a break, right? Or I think I might want to transfer to another school. I've heard that. I didn't get any free money last time, so why should I do it, right? And then I also have heard students say, well, graduate school, I wasn't thinking about it at the time, right? I'm not sure yet. No matter what you're thinking, right? Look there on the right. Until you graduate, always submit your renewal application between October 1st to March 2nd. So let's discuss why. Next slide. It's very important. Okay. So tip number 2, continue. Why would you still want to apply, even if you're having some questions or doubts about some things, right? So let's look at these bullet points. Because in the event you change your mind and you decide to continue your enrollment, right? Or let's say you successfully transfer to that new college or university, right? Or let's say you become eligible for some grants based on a change in your income or your parents' income, right? Or later, after you're about to finish your bachelor's degree, you want to go on to grad school. Let's say you get a late notification of that acceptance into graduate school. So whatever the scenario is for you, if your application is already submitted, woo woo, right? That's what you want. Because look down there at the bottom in blue. If you've already submitted your application, when it's time for financial aid folks like me to determine your aid eligibility, we can determine your aid eligibility based on being an on-time applicant as opposed to a late applicant. So that's why you want to try to submit it on time by the March 2nd deadline date. I will say that March 2nd is the deadline date for here in California. If you're going to be going to school out of state, you might want to check on the web pages for those schools, the financial aid offices, to see what their deadline is. Okay, next slide. All right, fun stuff. Show me the money. Okay, what types of aid are offered and how much? Okay, so here we go. Types of aid. You may somewhat be familiar, but if not, remember, this is a foundation presentation for you, okay? You got grants, you got scholarships, you got loans and work study. On the grant column there, you got federal grants, you got state grants, you got institutional grants. So some colleges and universities have their own money, right, to give you under grant aid. So notice at the bottom there, anything that says grant, I mean anything that has grant tied to it, that's the free money that doesn't have to be repaid. Okay, so outside of grants, then you have scholarships in the center there. So there's institutional scholarships and there's private scholarships. These may usually require a separate application. So this is outside of you doing the FAFSA or the CADA or the CSS profile. Outside of that, for scholarships, you may have to apply separately. Notice anything down at the bottom, anything that has the word scholarship tied to it, right? That's also free money that has to be repaid. And why am I emphasizing this? Because sometimes, even in all my years of experience, every now and then we might still have students or parents to say, oh, do I have to pay? Does this have to be paid back? It says something, something grant, something, something scholarship. No, anything that's a grant or a scholarship is the free money. And then lastly, in this column, loans and work study. So you have federal loans, you have private loans. Anything that's a loan is not free, has to be repaid based on the terms of the loan. Okay. And then you got work study and college corps. What are work study and college corps? We're going to talk about it briefly following up, but just know you just earn that money. So you're earning it through a part-time job or um, volunteer contributions. Okay. Yes, we're good. Next slide. Okay, so grants, just giving you a little bit of breakdown here. Federal grant, you got Pell Grant on the right left-hand side here. You got Pell Grant. These are the current award amounts. Once you go into school, they may change, may stay the same, they may go up. Who knows? But right now, this is where we're at. So Pell Grant can go up to $7,395. Okay, SCOG can go from 1,000 to 4,000. Each individual school will set their own limits. There's Teach Grant. If you anyone interested in going into teaching, that grant could go up to $4,000. Okay. Notice here, federal grants, that little bullet down there. Anything that's federal can be used at any school across the country. Okay. Now, in the center there, Cal Grants. Cal Grants is just for here in California. So right now for the CSU system, our tuition is $6,084. The Cal Grant covers the $6,084. If you go to a UC school, their tuition is $14,436. The Cal Grant covers that. Okay, so just know Cal Grant Awards just help cover the tuition fees at the CSUs or the UCs. And then on the far right here for the CSU system, we also have what's called a state university grant. Notice that the dollar amount is the same as the Cal Grant. It covers the tuition. So it's $6,084. So there are some students that may be eligible for a Cal Grant, right? And if you get the Cal Grant, you don't need the state university grant. Sometimes we have students, oh, they may have missed out on the Cal Grant, but they're eligible for the state university grant. So you can get one or the other. And then the bullet point down there at the bottom is for the UCs. Just a little side note for UCs, if you're considering any UCs, they have what's called a blue and gold opportunity plan, right? So if you're looking into a UC or two, when you go to their website for the financial aid office, right, you can learn a little bit more about that. Okay, next slide. Middle class scholarship. Okay, so that's for here in California as well. It's offered by the California Student Aid Commission. You can see that at the top. So about the middle class scholarship, no separate application is needed. Okay, I repeat, no separate application is needed. You're just doing the FAFSA or the Cal Dream Act application. That's it. Award amounts can vary. Okay, because there's a lot of little nuances to the middle class scholarship program. In the center there, you see the basic requirements. See how you have to meet that March 2nd deadline date? So you got to apply on time. Okay. Students with family income and assets with the established threshold. So right now, the year that we're in is 2024-25. The current ceiling is $226,000. So anyone at $226,000 and below can be considered for the middle class scholarship. When you're applying for next year, they may change the parameters a bit. Okay. Notice down there that last bullet, you have to be a California resident and attend a UC or Cal State or California Community College to be eligible for the middle class scholarship. If you want more information, just check out the QR code and go to their website because they'll update it every year. Next slide. Okay, scholarships, more free money. Notice, just as a reminder, you got institutional, you got private. So on the institutional side, what you have to remember, the amounts can vary. Most colleges and universities will offer a variety of scholarships. We do at Dominguez Hills. We're not unique as other schools. So there's new student scholarships, departmental scholarships. There's scholarships for returning students. Sometimes students are coming back after, taking a break or they're just continuing on, but we consider them returning. They're not new, right? But there's scholarships for every category there. In the center there, you got private scholarships. Again, amounts can vary, different sources and organizations, right? You might have a McDonald's scholarship, a Target scholarship, eBell scholarship. There's a variety, right? But application deadline dates will vary, okay? Some suggestions to learn more about scholarships. Definitely visit the financial aid office website for every school that you're interested in going to. Go to their website, just peruse around a little bit to see what's their scholarship application process, what's available. Also, don't rule out outside external scholarships. In this slide here, I'm suggesting that you use a scholarship search engine or tool. They're for free. I repeat, students and parents who are listening or watching, it's for free, giving you a couple of links, right? So you have scholarships.com, the College Board Big Future, salliemae.com/scholarships is another good one. And then there's scholarshipamerica.org. Those are just some of them. There are others. What I just want you to know is there are other tools out there for you. The information is out there for free. And for many scholarship search engines, you can create criteria or how you want to filter the scholarship you want to apply for. Some may ask you to create a profile, whatever you're most comfortable with, but it's something that you could use to help find more free money. Okay, next slide. All right, loans and work study. So just know that on the federal loan side, you can see that the range can go from as low as $5,500 up to $12,500 annually. What's the important part to know there? It depends on your grade level, right? So freshmen are offered a certain amount, sophomores are offered a certain amount, juniors and seniors another amount. Second bullet there, you're not required to borrow. The loans may be offered, but you don't have to borrow. Okay. It's just another resource. My suggestion is to think of it as an alternative funding source for yourself that's available if you need it. If you don't need it, it's okay, decline it. If you later have a situation just like, oh, I think I'm going to need a little bit of that money before the school year ends, you can talk to the financial aid office about requesting some of it. Okay. Lastly, there sometimes students or parents are concerned like, well, if I borrow this, I'm have to pay it back right away. Well, no. On the federal loan side, you don't have to pay it back until after you graduate or leave school. Okay, so you'll have some time. You can start paying it back sooner, but you're not required to until after you graduate or leave school. Then you still have a grace period. You still got some time. Okay, in the center there, talk about private loans. Those amounts can vary because they're private, so they're coming from a bank lender. It's based on a person's credit worthiness, okay? And it could be a student borrower or a parent borrower. That second bullet there, I'm just letting you know that whatever amount that you try to borrow, it cannot exceed your overall cost of attendance budget. And you might be saying, what's that? Cost of attendance budget? Everybody's going to have your budget. You're going to have an on-campus budget or off-campus budget or commuter if you're going to be commuting from home, depending on where you go. But there's a budget, right? Just know that your financial aid in combination cannot exceed whatever that cost of attendance budget is. So I'm giving you an example here. So let's say your estimated cost of attendance budget is $36,000. And let's say your financial aid funds that you've been offered, okay, in combination is $20,000. Well, if you subtract the $20,000 from the $36,000, the difference is $16,000. So that's your room, if you will, for a private loan. It cannot exceed the $16,000. So just know at the end of the day, your financial aid in combination just cannot exceed your cost of attendance budget. Okay. And then lastly, federal work study program amounts can vary. It can be as low as 1,000 up to 5,000 typically. You work a part-time job. There's usually on and off campus positions that are available, usually a lot of on campus. But yeah, you're just working just like if you're working any other job. But it's just that the money is coming from the federal work study program. And maybe you're working for an office like the financial aid office, the bookstore, outreach, whoever. Okay, next slide. College Corps. Okay, College Corps is a California program. And it helps create debt-free pathways for you to engage. Debt-free pathways for college by engaging students across the state to solve some problems in your communities, right? College Corps. I don't really deal a lot with the College Corps. I'm just giving you nitty-gritty, okay? Do I apply? What's the amount, right? Show me the money. $7,000 stipend, $3,000 education award. That's a nice, those are nice amounts right there. But it does require completion of 450 hours of service. Okay, so those are the highlights. But if you think you're kind of intrigued by this, or you and your parents, check out the QR code and kind of do your research on it to see if that's something that you might want to do. Okay, next slide. And we're almost there. We're almost there. Hope I'm not over time. Lastly, what will I need? What are the documents, right? Okay, next slide. Okay, so items for online completion. Usually you're just going to need your social security number, date of birth, and email address. Parents' name, date of birth, SSN, and email address. This is mostly for the FAFSA application because you're going to have to create what's called an FSAID username and password. And it's pretty simple. You're going to go online to www.studentaid.gov, and that's where you're going to create your password. If you're going to be doing the Cal Dream Act application, you don't have to go there to create a password. They have their own process, okay? Everyone's going to need their income and asset information for the tax year that's needed for the application, because remember, you're applying for each new academic year, okay? Documents in the center there, sometimes you might need to have your tax forms handy, or the financial aid office may ask for it, just may. It's not always required now because the data is coming from the IRS. You may need to provide proof of citizenship, your state or government issued ID, verification worksheet if your file selected for verification, maybe. These are all the maybes, right? And then lastly, other. Some other types of aid may require completion of additional forms. On one of the previous slides, under types of aid, I mentioned the Teach Grant. The Teach Grant on the federal side is something that you have to do a separate application for, right? Sometimes for, well, not sometimes, for student loans, even though you do the FAFSA application, if you're going to borrow student loans, there's some other items that you may need. Oh, we're up on time. Jared, thank you for the message. Okay, next slide. We're going to wrap it up. We're on the review page. Okay, what, when, and how? Again, financial aid is money. You're going to apply October 1st through March 2nd, FAFSA or the CADA. Next slide. Just remember, for mixed status families, you got the California State Commission message, CSS profile, you got the QR codes. Next slide. All right, show me the money. So you got grants, scholarships, loans, and work study. Okay, just remember anything that's state aid, the Cal Grant, the middle class scholarship, all of that's just for here in California. It won't travel with you out of state. And scholarships, try to use the scholarship search engine, use the websites. Next slide. And what will you need? We just talked about those documents. Next slide. And that's it. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was a wealth of knowledge and information. We greatly appreciate all of it. That is awesome. All right. So next we are going to go to our Citrus College presentation with Dr. Jennifer Miller Thayer.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. I had a little trouble getting into the meeting today, so I just want to make sure we're good. All right. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Jennifer Miller Thayer. I'm the coordinator of Citrus Honors Transfer Program, as well as anthropology faculty. Next slide, please. Next slide. Sorry. Thank you. So I'm here to talk to you today about California community colleges. I'm a first-gen college student as well as a graduate of a California community college. So I can give you the student perspective as well as the educator perspective. The California Community College is the largest higher education system in the US, with over 2.1 million students attending 116 colleges. And 25% of community college students in the US attend a California community college, so we're a very large system. 1/3 of Californians that are between 18 and 24 are currently California Community College students, and 70% of our California Community College students are people of diverse ethnic backgrounds. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. Or can I move it myself?
I clicked it, so it's not
okay.
going. Did it not go?
It's okay. It's all right. So almost 51% of Cal State University students and 29% of UC graduates transfer from the California Community College. So, which is a lot, obviously. And so it's a good place to start at a California Community College, and then you can transfer to those 4 years. So if your GPA is not very high in high school right now, or you're not sure where you want to go or what you want to major in, or maybe you can't afford it yet, even with financial assistance, then think about a California community college. Almost half of the UC bachelor's degrees in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, are awarded to California community college transfer students. Next slide, please. And just to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do with a degree or even just attending California or any community college, some notable community college students include the co-founder of Apple, a mayor of LA, a professional chef and television chef entrepreneur. You have a chief justice of California, a Hall of Fame baseball player and civil rights activist, and a former governor of California, actor, and bodybuilder. Next slide, please. We have a few more on the next slide too. So best-selling children's author, Queen Latifah, who you may have heard of, a rapper, artist, actress, entrepreneur, and TV show host. We have the first woman space shuttle commander, who's also a NASA astronaut. We have another civil rights icon and labor leader. a heart transplant doctor, professor, lawyer, and a former governor of Hawaii. So just from looking at this small sample of community college students, you can see that you can start at a community college and you can go anywhere and you can do anything. So think about coming to a community college, especially if you're not sure what you want to do yet, or you're not sure what you want to major in, or you want to build your skills. Next slide, please. So California community colleges offer a variety of services. We help students earn their AA degrees and AS degrees, as well as transfer degrees called ADTs. We help prepare students, even if you don't get a degree, to still transfer to four-year colleges and universities. We also help students do workforce development and training, because you don't always need a degree to be able to get a job. And sometimes you're in a job or a career that requires some workforce development or training, and so we can help you with that. If you need vocational certification, the same thing. You can come and you don't have to get a degree, but we can help you earn certificates that you may need to help you either get promoted or earn or to be able to get hired in certain jobs. And we also help with lifelong learning for people who don't want to get a degree but are curious and want to learn more things, because we accept everybody. Everyone can come to a community college. Next slide, please. So there are some benefits of attending a community college. If you are a student who needs to live at home, they're close by, so you can save money that way by living at home and going to school. We also are very affordable. We're only $46 per unit, which is the lowest in the nation. And then you can take the time, like I said before, to find your goals, figure out your major, and to grow your student skills and to grow as a person before committing to a four-year college. And sometimes you think you know what your major is and what you want to do, and then you start taking classes in that and find out that it doesn't really fit you. And that's okay. If you're at a community college, you can change your major and you can explore and you can take different courses in your general ed first 2 years and figure out what does fit you. And we have a great career center and transfer center that can support you in that as well. And we have other support services like tutoring, skills workshops, a veterans center. If you're a first-gen college student or a low-income college student, you could look at our EOP&S program, and they also help with funding and other support services. If you are a student who needs support as far as like extra time on exams or things like that, sometimes for an accommodation, we have a DSP&S program as well. We have a Pride Center. We have a Black Scholars program. So we have a lot of different support services, and this is just a few. We also have transfer agreements, so it can be easier to transfer into impacted colleges and programs. So if it's very difficult to get into the college or program that you want to get into as a freshman, you can come to a community college and we can help you transfer in as a junior. And sometimes it's easier to get into those impacted colleges and programs through that route. So think about that. And then we also have a lot of opportunities for motivated students in leadership, like you can go into student government or club leadership, things like that, service opportunities, research, and study abroad. So we're going to look at some of those right now. If we go to the next slide, and we're going to start with the honors program, which I told you before, I am the honors transfer coordinator. So if you have any questions about the Citrus honors program, please do get in touch with me. I can help you with that. So we offer a lot of different benefits in honors programs. Often, including at Citrus, we have smaller class sizes, so 20 students or less. We also offer seminar style instruction, which means that instead of getting lectured at, you do more discussion-based or hands-on learning or group learning or activity learning. So it's much more engaging for a lot of students. We have specific transfer agreements. These are in addition to the ones I was mentioning earlier that only honors students qualify for. And so you do have to complete the honors program. And so we have, like UCLA, we have a specific agreement with them for our Transfer Alliance program, or known as TAP for short. And just to give you a quick indication of how much that can benefit you, the transfer acceptance rate in 2022 for non-TAP students was only 18%, and for the TAP students, it was 83%. So if you come into the honors program, we can help you get into a lot of schools. We also have agreements with UCI Honors to Honors Agreement, which is UC Irvine. We have a transfer agreement with Yale. So we have them with UCs, with Cal States, with a variety of in-state schools, but also out-of-state schools. So if you're interested in going somewhere as prestigious as Yale, you can check us out and we can help you get there. We also have a community and networking with peers and faculty. We have leadership, service, and research opportunities as well. And we have 2 dedicated counselors for our honors students, so you can see them on a weekly basis if you want to. So it's not a problem to be able to see the counselors. And we have second day priority registration. And next slide. And we also have 2 honor societies that we interconnect with. So you can become part of their organizations too for further benefits. We have STEM, a STEM program that offers STEM counseling, tutoring, supplemental instruction, peer-to-peer mentoring, STEM learning communities, teacher preparation programs, student research opportunities with universities. Project RAISE is an example, and a summer research program which helps students build their skills. And then we also have presentation opportunities. So some of our students will do their research and then present at conferences, and then that also builds your resume and your transfer application like stronger too. Next slide, please. We also have what's called CTE, or Career and Technical Education. And so there's a variety of options for those courses. So you can get certificates or career and technical education in administration of justice, dental assisting, nursing, child development, all kinds of different opportunities for that as well. And so you can earn those certificates, which can help with promotion or even getting hired in some places. Can you next slide, please? We also have a great program if you're interested in the arts. So you can look at Citrus Singers and Performing Arts with singing, dancing, theater, and music. The students do professional performances while they're students, and then also as graduates, they get hired in a variety of different places and spaces to perform. And then we have other arts like ceramics, drawing, and painting. We also have opportunities to be an intern at the Getty Museum. And the Getty Museum internship is actually really looking for more community college students to join. So they're actively recruiting community college students into that program. So if you're interested in the arts, do check out community college as well to build your skills. Next slide, please. One of my favorite programs, and this is me in ziplining in the jungles of Costa Rica on the left side and eating a crepe at in Paris. And for some reason that one picture got flipped. So that is the Eiffel Tower. And that picture is from the street that I lived on for a month while I taught in Paris. So I was in Costa Rica teaching for a month back in 2020, and I taught in Paris in 2023. So think about study abroad if you're able to. One of the nice things about study abroad at Citrus is that we do have a winter intersession and a summer intersession. Not all colleges have that opportunity. And so if you can't go for a full semester in fall or spring, you could think about just going for a month in the winter intersession, which goes January into February, or in the summer intersession, which goes often June into July, or for the month of July. And we do have a variety of different locations like London, Madrid, Kyoto, and other cities in Japan as well, Costa Rica, Paris, Rome, Dublin, and we're adding new cities and locations all the time. Florence is now coming back through too. So it's also cheaper to take advantage of the study abroad at the community college than when you transfer to a 4-year. So you can still do study abroad when you go to a 4-year, but it's more affordable at the community college. So paying for the community college, like was mentioned in the last presentation, you fill out your FAFSA or your California DREAM Act application. There's a variety of different grants like the California College Promise Grant. There are other grants like the Pell Grant, the Cal Grant, Citrus Promise Program Grant, which is different from the California one. There's a variety of different scholarships, and the financial aid office can help you find those. And 50% of students don't pay fees. Next slide, please. So applying to the California Community College, there's an application that you're going to fill out, and those are available year round, but depending on when you apply will depend on when you can attend. And then you would apply for financial aid, attend an orientation, see a counselor and prepare what's called a SEP, or a student education plan. Those are not written in stone. It's just to help you figure out what coursework you need to take, and then you'll be able to change it as you need to later, and then you register for classes. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of a timeline guidance for you, some important dates. Dates do vary by college, so please see the college webpage and outreach office for whatever specific community college that you want to go to. For Citrus, January 1st, we open our fall application for that year. So say you wanted to go in fall 2025, you could apply right now. If you want to attend in fall of 2026, you would apply anytime after January 1st of 2026. You're going to complete a new student orientation, and then around March or April, you would go to a student ed plan workshop with counselors, or make an appointment with a counselor to pick classes and get registration support. And then around mid-May is priority registration dates. It's a second day date for early decision and promise program students. So that would be the time when you would be able to register. But if you are in other programs, like if you're a veteran, if you are in EOP&S or DSP&S, for example, you would have first day priority registration. So like I was mentioning before, everyone can come to community college. So don't think college is not for you. Come try it out. Even if you're not doing so well in high school or you have a lower GPA, doesn't matter. You start over fresh when you start at the community college. So your GPA starts over, and then we're here to help you build your skills, figure out what you want to do, and help you get on the best path for you. So please do consider a community college. And then if you do want to go to a four-year, that path is easier if you start at a community college and then transfer. So please do reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller-Thayer. I always enjoy your presentation so much. That was great. Next, we are going to hear from our Cal State representative. Presenters, please just make sure we're trying to keep to that 10-minute presentation time.
All right, hello. All right, hi. My name is Deshaun. I'm one of the outreach counselors here at Cal Poly Pomona, and today I'm here to talk a little bit about the California State University system. I myself am a graduate of the California State University system, and currently I am trying to seek my master's also within the California State University system as well. So a little bit about what we're going to be talking about, and the agenda is what exactly is a CSU and what is the benefits of attending a CSU. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about the resource available to all students, as well as some of the admission requirements, and also impaction, which is something that you'll hear about pretty often within higher education and when you're pursuing your goals. So we're also going to talk a little bit about Transfer Success Pathway Program, which is our partnership with the community colleges to ensure that students are getting admitted to a CSU, and it guarantees you admission depending on if you meet the requirements or not. Also, a little bit about understanding the whole application process as a whole, as well as counselor resources. So we are 23 strong. As you can see on the map, we have all 23 campuses, and the California State University system is the nation's largest four-year public university system. It serves over 481,000 students annually, offering access to an affordable and high-quality education. One fact that I always like to say is that the CSU awards nearly half of the state's bachelor's degrees and is kind of a pathway for students to gain the skills and knowledge for real-world jobs. Next slide. So the hands-on approach, right? So the learn by doing hands-on education, the CSU emphasizes, gives you that technical, practical knowledge. So that way, when you graduate from a CSU, you are career ready. One example of this that I always like to highlight is going to be that polytechnic experience. So polytechnic means hands-on learning, and we have 3 different polytechnic schools within the CSU system. But as a whole, the CSU embodies getting the hands-on experiences, and that is how we prepare our students to make sure that they are career ready once they get out of college. Another thing is the classroom sizes and the size of overall university as well. So the size of a school is something that's pretty big when you're considering what kind of school do you want to attend. And I'm happy to say that the CSUs has a place for you no matter what your preference is. So let's say, for example, you wanted to go to a school that has like 10,000 students. You can look at like CSU Channel Islands, which has a student population much below 10,000. Or let's say if you wanted a mid-sized campus, then you can look at like Cal Poly Pomona, for example, which is pretty close by to Claremont, and it's a mid-sized campus. Or if you wanted to get that movie style college experience where it's like those big universities and open, housing over like 40,000 students, you can look at something like San Diego State University, or you can even look at Cal State Fullerton. So yeah. And then we also offer many different support services as well that I'll talk about in our next slides, as well as being diverse and affordable as well. And these are some of the majors that you can study at a CSU. And of course, these are just the interesting ones that I picked out, but there are thousands of other majors. One fact that I always like to mention, the first one, animation and illustration. The creator of SpongeBob actually went to a CSU. So yeah, that's my fun little fact for that. So life at the CSU, right? So what is your life going to look like if you did attend a CSU? So CSUs hold everything that you can expect from college or what you're expecting of college. So that could be whether it be like dorm style housing that you can look at. Housing I'll talk a little bit about as well, and as well as student government. So if you are part of any kind of government, like if you wanted to be class president or vice president, the treasurer, there's different kinds of student government that you can find at the CSUs. And we also have tons of different clubs and organizations as well. But yeah. So in terms of the different type of resources that students can utilize, one of them is the academic advising writing centers. For example, if you want a paper, if you need help with a paper, or if you need help any kind of tutoring, you can always find the different resources across any of the CSUs. Most of the CSUs are student focused, so they really emphasize you getting the resources that you need in order to succeed, right? We also have our various different study abroad programs, and these can differ like depending on what your major is. So for example, like if you're a certain major, you might only be able to go to like certain countries. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well. And we also have various different student cultural centers, again, highlighting that diversity that you can find all across the CSUs as well. And we have tons of different services, not only for our veterans, but also students with disabilities, as well as students with financial insecurities. We also have our food pantry as well. I always like to say that there's always free food on a college campus. It's just a matter of finding it. And talking about athletics, so especially if you're in high school right now, trying to play sports at a collegiate level, the CSU is a great choice as well, just because we have a bunch of different schools that have Division I athletics as well as Division II. And some of the CSUs might be Division I in one sport, but might be Division II in a different sport. So it's really important to research the CSUs that you want to go to, right? Like, so if you only want to go to play football at a D1 level, some schools might not have football specifically for D1, but might have other sports for D1. So it's really important that you, one, that you inquire about it from the CSUs, as well as just, reaching out to the schools themselves. That way that you can get a head start. That way you're on the radar when it comes to scouting, and you have a profile already built upon you. So another benefit of living on campus, so there's different types of housing within the CSUs. There's on-campus housing, which is pretty good just because it kind of involves you within the campus. A lot of students usually are pretty scared that they're not going to be able to, get that college experience. But if you live on campus, you will. So you're going to get the whole social aspect of living on campus, as well as you can also, get the convenience of it all, right? Your class is just going to be a walk away, and you don't have to worry about, being late to class or waiting in traffic. So you also get to, come outside of your house and just like, experience what it's like to just live by yourself, right? But yeah. So some freshman admission requirements. So I'll give you a second to scan the QR code. It will take you to the requirements themselves, but I'll also talk a little bit about them as well. So these are the 2025 freshman eligibility, but it should be pretty similar to when you're going to be applying as well. So come 2026, most likely they will still be the same. It's been the same for years, and most likely it'll be the same as well. But these are the requirements right now. So right now, the CSU is test blind, so we do not take SAT or ACT scores. That just means that if you do have ACT or SAT scores, it'll only matter in terms of where you get placed, not necessarily in your admissions decision. And also completing your A through G, 15 units in your A through G, but it is recommended, for example, like math and science, that you take all 4 years, right? And also just earning a qualifying grade point average on that GPA. The main thing that we will be looking at is going to be your grade point average in those A through G courses. And that is going to be a 2.5 or greater. On in some occasions, if you do have below a 2.5, other things can help you out. For example, if you're part of any extracurriculars, any clubs, or any school programs, that can also help bump your GPA points up so that you can get accepted into the major of your desire. So the primary factors that we consider, again, is going to be the 9th to 11th grade GPA, right? Just because when you're applying, you're not going to have your full 12th grades yet. So it's mainly going to be considered on your 9 to 11, mainly that 11 and 10. And the GPA is going to be considered, this changes depending on the college that you attend. So for example, some colleges might consider your math GPA for, let's say, engineering, while other colleges might not. So it just really depends on the school itself. And that is why whenever you're applying, you make sure that you look at the requirements for that school itself. Just to be CSU eligible, you do need to have a 2.5 or greater in your A through in your A through G requirements. Some other factors, oh, can we go back? So some other factors that we do consider is the multi-factor admissions process. So this is when all your extracurriculars, all of the different clubs that you're involved in, for example, if you're part of a first generation college student, any kind of student demographics, all will come in to kind of make you a more rounded out applicant. Yeah. So this is going to go over your CSU application itself. So in your application, you're going to have 4 different quadrants. One of them is going to be your supporting information, and that is where you're going to put all of the different things that you're involved in. So it has all of the different programs that the CSUs are affiliated with, such as like AVID or Upward Bound. And this is when you can, opt in to say that you participated in these, as well as which kinds, right? In terms of work information, that's just how many hours that you worked, as well as for the extracurricular programs. We don't really look at what extracurriculars you did. It's more so how long did you do it for, right? So the main thing that we're going to be considering is the amount of hours. So the only time where it matters, like what sport you played, is going to be when you're looking to join a specific team, right? So if you wanted to play football, that's the only time where it'll matter. And student admissions are going to differ depending on the program itself. So for example, if you are a student athlete, the requirements might differ a little bit. You might get priority admissions depending on the program that you are applying for. And what is impaction? So this is a word that you're going to hear a lot, especially when you're going to look at colleges and when you're looking at either a UC or a CSU, you're going to hear this word a lot. So what does impaction actually means? So impaction means that you have more students applying for a job, applying for a major than we can accommodate. So for example, let's say if you were applying to be an engineering major and we only have 400 seats available for engineering students, and there's a 1,700 application pool, we will take the 400 of the most competitive applicants, right? So impaction basically just means more competitive, right? So these are the schools that are impacted campus-wide. If you see a little asterisk, that means that they are program-specific impacted, right? So all of the ones without the little asterisk is impacted for across all majors. Whereas, for example, like Cal Poly Pomona is impacted depending on the major. So some of the engineering majors are impacted, but some of the other engineering majors might not be. So it's just a matter of going on the website and finding out which majors are impacted, which majors are not. And if you are looking for a campus that is not impacted, we have a bunch of different campuses that are not impacted for any of the majors as well. And lastly, this transfer success pathway program. So if if you do not want to go straight into a four-year university, one option that students like to do is go through the Transfer Success Pathway programs, which is a partnership we have with the community colleges to ensure that you are guaranteed admission into a CSU. So you can do two to 3 years in community college and be guaranteed admission into your program of desire. And why students would want to do this is mainly just because they might not be CSU eligible come their senior year, or they might not be able to attend a CSU due to financial reasons, which tends to be a more cost-effective way to go into a four-year university. This is the website to apply, calstate.edu. And remember, it's one application. You fill it out, and then you can select which schools you want to send out your application to, so that way you're not filing multiple different applications. So everything on the CSU application is self-reported data. It's always good to have your transcripts on hand. That way you know that you're entering the most accurate, up-to-date information. Sometimes what ends up happening is people will self-report certain grades that they actually do need to have in order to be CSU eligible, and they might misreport a grade or two, and once they get accepted, they get their acceptance revoked once they do the auditing. So it is really important to be as accurate as possible, because you are going to be your acceptance is going to be determined on the information that you self-report. And when they go and do their audit and it's not accurate, it might have you might have a chance of getting your application rescinded. So another thing is, once you complete your application, you are gonna get an email from the schools that you applied to make a portal, create a username and password. That way you can see your acceptance on the portals themselves. Sometimes, you might not get the email, or you might not see the email. So it's always just good habit to just check your student portal every now and then, just to see like how your application is doing. So this is going to talk about the little cycle of the CSU admissions process. Remember, come November is when you finalize your applications and you click submit, and then you go through the process of waiting, right? Come early February to March is gonna be when admissions decisions are gonna be rolled out. And then after that, once your admissions decision comes back, then you start with orientation, you submit your final transcripts, and then you eventually start your first day of classes. And again, when you're applying on CSU Apply, there is an admissions handbook. Just type in admissions handbook for the year that you are applying for, and then it will give you all of the questions or all of the answers that you are probably looking for. So it goes in depth about, what schools are in your area, do you get local area preference, how to fill out the fee waiver, as well as just general tips and tricks as well. All right, thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate that awesome knowledge about the Cal State system. All right. So next we're going to hear from Ms. Tyra Briggs from regarding private colleges.
Great, thank you so much. Yes, I'm Tyra Briggs. I'm the Vice President for Admission and Financial Aid at Harvey Mudd, just down the street from Claremont High School. I'm happy to be with you all tonight. My presentation is going to be quite a bit shorter than my counterparts, partly because when you're talking about private colleges, there are so many answers where you ask us something and we say it depends. What I do want to do, though, first off, is encourage you to consider private colleges, and I want to tell you a little bit more about that. This map that you see on this first screen is actually incredibly important. It doesn't matter that you probably can't read all of the names of the tiny little font. What matters is that there are so many remarkable private colleges in the state of California, and you can only imagine how many private colleges there are that would be great fits for all of you around the country. And I would encourage you, when you think about college, it's 4 years. It is a great time with a beginning, a middle, and an end to explore some different areas of the country. But first, let's really focus on California and what we have to offer in terms of private colleges. Next slide. So again, a ton of choices. I just selected Area 5 from our list of private colleges in California, since largely because that's where we're all located. And I wanted to give you just an idea of the range of institutions that are represented by private colleges. I think often when people think of private colleges, they think just sort of liberal arts colleges and these smaller private colleges. But in fact, looking at that list just from the ones in the LA County, you'll see we have Research One institutions, we have liberal arts colleges, specialized colleges, lifelong learning schools. The range of options for private institutions is really quite extensive. And to give you an idea of that, next slide. This is just a sampling. Of course, I'm going to put Harvey Mudd up there, but this is just a sampling of some of the private colleges that we have in the state of California. And I think one of the greatest advantages for students is the diversity of the different institutions that are available. And so we really want students to take some time and focus in on exactly what we would be able to offer you. Go into the idea of thinking of college as you heard before about the idea of likely colleges and reach colleges. Also add to that private colleges, public colleges, just to get an idea of what the range might be. Some other advantages of private colleges, you heard about different challenges with impaction. That is far less common you'll find at private colleges because we often have the resources and the scope that we are able to offset some of what would be the impaction by hiring additional faculty or simply having more control over how we structure what we do rather than being responsible to the state and having to deal with any challenges there. Next slide. So I do want to talk about the myths about private colleges. I think one of them is, as I said, people think about these small liberal arts colleges, which of course is what Harvey Mudd happens to be, along with our other sister Claremont colleges. But when you think about the actual range of size of private colleges, they can go, we have, probably 8,000 people at the University of San Francisco, 7,000 or something like that at Stanford. And then you do have small colleges like Harvey Mudd, where 900 undergraduates, but there is going to be something for everyone, no matter what you're looking at. This idea also that they're all highly selective and they're really hard to get into, that's also not true. Certainly, some of these colleges that we're talking about are going to be very selective. It is going to have a rigorous application process, and we're not able to take all of the amazing students who are applying. But even if you look at those 85 private colleges just in the state of California, you will find many, many schools that are taking well over 75 to 80% of their applicants, offering amazing educations, down to the ones that are only able to take, say, 5 to 10%. And you can find all of that information out in lots of different ways. I will also mention, you heard from our Cal State friends and from our community college friends, the idea of transferring. And that is also a wonderful way to take advantage of private colleges. Maybe you don't feel like you're ready to apply to or go to a private college right out of high school. But on the other hand, maybe you don't want to live on campus at that time. You want to stay at home for your first couple of years. You can certainly do that and then transfer to a private college for your last 2 years, and you'll graduate with a degree from that private institution. And just like our public our counterparts, we also have articulation agreements, many of us, with community colleges from all around the state of California, where you can be guaranteed admission into specific programs, into specific colleges. So we work very intentionally about creating solid pathways to allow our students to graduate with a private college degree, even if they are going to start at a community college. And again, as you heard, we have phenomenal community colleges in our state that are extremely affordable. I saw a question that was flying around, I think, in the chat about whether you can use Cal grants at private institutions. You absolutely can. There are different structures for different institutions, but in general, you will absolutely be able to transfer that as well. And the idea also about they're too small. In some ways, we do have some real advantages in that way. For many of us, the average class size at some of these private colleges is 15 to 20 students in a class, and that's an absolutely amazing opportunity for students. Another myth is that you can't do research because you don't think of us as having these incredible research spaces and facilities, but we absolutely do. And if you look at a lot of anything from Nobel Prize winners to people who are getting a lot of the different fellowships and grants, they are coming from private colleges of all different stripes. And so it's certainly something that you would be able to do. And then finally, and probably most expensive, or most concerning, I think, to families, is that private colleges come across as being too expensive. And yes, well, many of us are quite expensive. On the other hand, we also have incredibly generous financial aid programs. And in some cases, we really can make it to the fact that we will be as expensive or as affordable as any other college based on the generosity of our financial aid. For example, if we decide that you can pay $5,000 a year, then we will have to make up that difference if we're going to be meeting full need in order to give you as generous a grant as possible. And as you heard from in the beginning, grants are the part that you want that you don't have to pay back. So please, please, please take advantage of different private colleges. I'm going to move through this very quickly, just how to start with when you're looking at the college search process, because you have great counselors who are here to support you and they can give you all of that information. These are just some things to think about. Only thing that I'm really going to, two things I'm going to highlight here: college visits. Essentially, you have an embarrassment of riches in terms of colleges within a very short distance from Claremont. So take advantage of that. Feel free to visit the Claremont colleges just to get a sense of what a small college might look like. And you see that Join Colleges inquiry list. I know students don't want to do that anymore. They don't want us to have their names and they want to stay anonymous, but you might miss out on scholarship opportunities, open houses. So create your own little email address just for your college process and take advantage of that. And last slide. Tips for success. Again, you have great counselors. You're going to hear all of that from your counselors. But my big piece of advice for families, for students, is that students really need to own this process. You have to really be organized as you go through this process. And again, your counselors are going to support you in that place as well. I do want to highlight that one where it says talk with your parents and guardians and supporters about financial resources. By that, I don't mean, how much do you make, mom? I essentially mean talk about whether financial aid will be a factor in your decision about where to go to college. And we know that it will be, certainly for most people. And finally, please let your mind be changed. You may think you know what you want to study, but we hope that college will be a place that will allow you to change over time. And you need to be in an institution that's going to help you do that. Learn how to think critically, find others who may not agree with everything you do, and push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Private colleges offer wonderful opportunities to do that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. We really appreciate that knowledge on private colleges. All right. Next, we are going to go ahead and go to UC admissions.
You know it, UC admissions from UC Santa Barbara, or what we like to call UC Sunny Beaches. Hi, everybody. My name is Nathaniel Elo, and I work at UC Santa Barbara as the admissions counselor for diversity initiatives. And I'm here to inform you all about the opportunities that exist at the UC schools, or what we like to call the University of California. So can we please go to the next slide? When applying to the UCs, it's really important to understand that you have 9 different UCs that you can apply to that ranges from up north all the way down south. Up north, you have schools like UC Davis, UC Berkeley, UC Merced, UC Santa Cruz. And if you would like to stay down in the Southern California area, you have schools like UC Riverside, UC San Diego, UC Irvine, UCLA, Los Angeles, but also you have a school like UC Santa Barbara. Note that when you're applying to the UCs, although we all share this similar name and nature at University of California, we're different in 3 specific ways, which is going to be location, size, and academics. Some schools are up north, some schools are down south. Yeah, academic wise, we're going to be talking about research. The UCs are really big when it comes to just being research institutions because a lot of professors are globally known for their research contributions. So our thing while being at this school is to help you understand and discover what the why is. Why could be a multitude of things, but if you're asking yourself why, we're here to help you find an answer. The UCs are really big on helping you think critically, helping you problem solve, and then helping you prepare and develop skills that are going to help you prepare for the real world applications, such as different jobs, graduate schools, industries, whether that's business, law, or even just preparing yourself for careers that don't even exist that you have the opportunity to create. So as I mentioned, we're really big on conducting research. And moving on to the next slide. When it comes to academics, again, there's a multitude of different things that you can choose to major in, whether it's anthropology, whether it's pharmacology. And if you're interested in animals, you can major in zoology or even veterinarian sciences. But the UCs do offer over 100+ majors and minors to help you figure out what is it that you would like to do. And for the young students that don't know what they would like to major in, there's always an undeclared option that you can choose to apply as and still have that equal opportunity of getting accepted to the UC school that you would like to get into as well. And at the same time, there are pre-professional programs that you can choose to be a part of. For my students that want to go to medical school, there's a pre-med program, there are pre-law programs, and pre-business programs as well to help supplement you in terms of the major that you're majoring in, but to also help you experience their new industry that you would like to get into as well. Next slide. Regarding the application process, the application opens up August 1st and the application opens up August 1st. The deadline to submit your application is going to be October 1st and November 30th, which has already passed. Yet at the same time, note that when you're applying to these UCs, each applicant will receive an individual evaluation. It's not like Santa Barbara is going to be reaching out to UCLA and saying, hey, are you going to accept or deny the student? It's not like UCLA is going to reach out to UC San Diego and ask them the same question as well. We evaluate you a little bit differently depending on the campus in which you are applying to. No, we don't require letters of recommendation. No, we don't require transcripts. And no, we don't require resumes or even interviews as well. So moving on to the next slide real quick. These are the requirements that needs to be done in order to become a qualified applicant to the UCs. A is going to be your A through G courseworks, completing your A through Gs, which would be on the next slide, but we're not going to go to just yet. 2 would be your UC weighted GPA. The way we calculate that, we look at your 10th and 11th grade scores. And then also your life experiences really matter as well. What is it that you are doing inside and outside of the classroom to stand out as a qualified applicant to these different UCs? Next slide. So regarding the A through Gs, if you are working closely with your high school counselors and your college advisors as well, they're already putting you on track to complete these A through Gs, which is going to be those 2 years of history, 4 years of English, 2 years of math, 2 years of a language other than English, 2 years of your sciences, 1 year of arts, and then 1 year of your elective. And in addition to that, if you're considering finding out what is it that needs to be done in order to become this superb applicant as well, all these classes that you're taking, we're going to be looking at your 10th and 11th grade scores. Now, regarding your 10th and 11th grade scores, the minimum GPA that you need to be eligible to apply to the UCs is going to be a 3.0. But then also, if you're looking for ways to stand out to the UC, consider taking these AP classes, IB classes, or even dual enrollment, because stuff like that ultimately helps increase your UC weighted GPA. And yes, the UCs do not use those plus or minuses when it comes to your score intake with the GPA as well. Next slide. Note that the UCs are test-free. We no longer require SATs and ACTs for admissions purposes. But then also we do accept those AP and IB scores that you do decide to put down on the UC application as well. And so that just kind of goes on academics, but looking at the non-academics as well, which would be the next slide. As I mentioned, we want to know what is it that you're doing inside and outside of the classroom? What is it that you've been doing for the last 4 years of high school? So whether that's any clubs, sports, community service, hobbies, or talents, we want to get to know you inside and out. We have this thing where we call it a holistic review process where we want to understand your academics and your non-academics as well. Next slide, please. But then note, while we are reviewing your UC application, we do not look at race. We do not look at ethnicity. We do not look at gender, sexual orientation, or religion. So it's important to understand that we don't use any of these when reviewing you as an applicant. Solely, we're looking at those academics and non-academics that you're putting down on that UC application. Next slide. As I mentioned previously, we do have a holistic review process where we need to and we want to understand all of your accomplishments within the full context, which includes the 13 factors that we have on our side, which includes those academics, GPAs, honors courses, ELC designation, those special talents and leadership skills that you showcase to us. But then also note that context matters. So what you're not sharing with us, we would never know. So if you would like to stand out, showcase everything that you have been doing and everything that you're willing to do. So that way you can be that, as I mentioned, qualified applicant to the UCs. So what did you do? Why did you do it? And it depends on what you want to show to us or what you would like to tell us as well. But be sure to track your involvement from 9th grade up into your 12th grade as well. Next slide. This is a prime example of what I'm talking about. For example, this person that put down this information, they played tennis 7 hours a week. They did it for 14 weeks, and they noted that they were playing the sport from 9th to 11th, and then they summarized as well. What is it that they were doing? For high school, they played for JV for 2 years. They're currently playing on varsity and playing in 2 regional tournaments a year. So they're showcasing their involvement, their athletics. They're informing the UCs that this is what they're doing outside of their coursework, outside of the academics. This is their non-extracurricular activities. Next slide. Feel free to take a picture of this. If you would like to get more information about the different UCs and opportunities that they have at their institutions or on their campus as well, these are certain majors and different information that they do have in their campus. You have like five more seconds. Because the next slide is the most important slide as well. Thank you very much. This slide is going to be really important. Oh, we can go back one more. Thank you so much. This slide is going to be really important when it comes to just calendar reminders for my seniors and for those that are juniors, sophomores, and freshmen as well. It's really important to understand any institution attend their open house. June to November, there's going to be a lot of UC application workshops. August to that November mark, you're going to be working on your UC application. October to November, you're submitting that application. March 2nd is going to be the deadline to submit your financial aid or that FAFSA. And then by November, January, you're going to create your UC applicant portal. And then by March, you're going to find out whether or not you got accepted or denied from the school that you're interested in. But then also, if you have any questions, which would be the next slide, feel free to email us or go on our YouTube page to get more information on what we have to offer to showcase who you are as a student and how to best prepare yourself for this next journey of your life. And the QR code should take you to our YouTube page. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. All right, next we are going to have our CHS student perspective. Thank you guys for hanging on with us. We are just about, we have 2 more presenters and then we will wrap up. I know this is a long presentation always, but it is just a wealth of information. And now I'm going to turn it over to Miss Molly Chow.
Hi everyone, I'm Molly, and I'm really excited to just get to share my college application process with you all. I'm just going to share a little bit about what worked for me and kind of just what I wish I would have done differently. I know that everyone has a different journey and different process, and I'm just excited to share with you. So yes, obviously I'm a senior this year. I just finished all my applications, and during my time at high school, I took a mixture of both AP and IB classes, mostly AP classes though. And I've found so much joy in my extracurriculars at ASB, tennis, Chamber Singers Key Club, and my involvement through church. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to share a brief overview of my junior year, my summer before my senior year, and my senior year with you on this slide, and then I'll go more into depth in a few minutes. And so starting with my junior year, which is where most of you are all now, my junior year, if I were to summarize it into one word, it would probably be discovery. During junior year, I didn't really know, how college applications even worked, and I felt very overwhelmed. I didn't know what I wanted to major in, and I just had a lot of questions about the process. And so I just started researching, and I used school links, and I just visited college websites to look at their programs and to see, how each college differed from each other. And then after I did some research, I started visiting colleges. A few colleges I visited were UCSD, USC, Pepperdine, and Point Loma. And by the end of my junior year, I verbally asked my 2 of my teachers for letters of recommendation. The summer before my senior year, I took my SAT tests. I hadn't taken any tests before that, so I just spent most of my summer studying for my SAT. I finalized my college list, and then I started my applications. And so by the time summer was over, my personal statement was done, and my UC essays were also complete. And then, so for my senior year, I started off the year with the teacher and counselor questionnaire. I finished off my applications, and I ended up applying to 10 private schools and 5 UCs. Next slide, please. So junior year. I think the question that most juniors should be asking themselves is, what do you want out of your college experience? And a few ways you can figure this question out is by doing research. Really just ask yourself, what is unique about each school, and does it have programs that interest you? And you can also visit colleges. Getting on campus will really help you decide if you like the school's atmosphere. And another suggestion that I have for your junior year is to just start thinking about your major. You don't have to know for sure, but it is nice to start thinking about what field or subject you want to study, so that when you're doing research about the colleges, you can see, if the programs a school has fits what you want to study. And lastly, by the end of your junior year, make sure to ask 2 of your teachers if they would be willing to write your letters of recommendation. And make sure, to have your teachers verbally commit to writing your letters of recommendation so that by your senior year, you don't have to worry about finding your teachers to write them. Next slide, please. So the summer before your senior year, if you need to take tests, such as your SAT tests or your ACT tests, make sure to do that before senior year starts because it gets quite busy. That's what I did, and it was a little bit stressful, but you can definitely get it done. I would suggest finalizing your college list. So, as the counselors mentioned before, having a combination of both safety schools, target schools, and reach schools. And continue to visit schools. During summer, you'll have more time to get on campus. And obviously, students aren't going to be on campus during the summer, so it might be hard to kind of get a feel of what it would be like to be at the school during the school year, but it's still nice to get on campus and, to see if you like the environment and the atmosphere and the location of the school. And the biggest tip that I can give is to start your applications during the summer before your senior year. Senior year gets really busy, and so having the goal of, trying to get all of your UC essays done before senior year and having your personal statement completely done before senior year starts is the biggest tip I can give to you. Having these two, parts of my application completely done gave me a lot of like peace going into my senior year, and I wasn't as overwhelmed with all my applications. Next slide, please. So for your senior year, this is kind of like a timeline. This might not be the exact timeline that you will follow. It just depends on the colleges you're applying to, as they all have different deadlines. And so at the beginning of your senior year, your counselors will send out their teacher and counselor questionnaire. And essentially, it's a document of questions that you will answer along with your parents, and it will help your teachers and your counselors get a better understanding of who you are as a person and as a student, and give them better information to be able to write amazing letters of recommendation. In addition to these questionnaires, we use school links to request our letters of recommendation from our teachers, and your counselors will show you how to do all that towards the beginning of the school year. Next is early action or decision. So if you have a top college or a college that is your top choice, you can apply to this school early action, which is not binding, or early decision, which is binding. And this application is typically due by the beginning of November. So if there's a school that you are particularly interested in as you are doing your research, make sure to check to see if they have any early action or early decision deadlines. This is just something to think about as you start thinking about which colleges you want to apply to. Next are Cal State and UC applications, and these are typically due at the beginning of December. And then you have your regular decision applications, which have a range of different deadlines. Most of mine were due towards the beginning of January, and I spent the majority of my senior year working on my supplemental essay questions for my private schools. So definitely keep up with, just make sure to have a checklist of all the colleges that you are applying to and all the different deadlines, so that you don't miss anything and last minute need an extra letter or forget an essay or anything. And scholarships and FAFSA are the last on this timeline, but honestly, these can fit in anywhere throughout your process. Scholarships are great opportunities, and that's kind of what I'm looking into right now, as my college applications are now over. And in terms of other opportunities that Claremont High School offers, there are college fairs, which are where different colleges come to the gym, and they each have a booth. And it's just a great opportunity for you to be able to learn more about different colleges and to get a different feel of, what each college offers. And in addition, we have on-the-spot admissions opportunities. And so I know schools like CBU, APU, University of La Verne, and a few other colleges came to Claremont High School this year. And you can essentially, bring your transcripts and a few other materials and then get admitted on the spot, which is a great opportunity as well. Next slide, please. And I added this slide because senior year is all about balance. There's so many fun activities senior year. And if you don't take time to rest, it's going to get really hard to keep up with everything. And so make sure, as you start planning your senior year, to make intentional time to, not overload your senior year with too much. Intentionally plan for rest. And you don't want to burn out your senior year, so please definitely take time to rest and take care of yourself and get enough sleep. Next slide, please. And so this is kind of just a checklist that I made of all the different things throughout this application process that I did and the timeline that I kind of did it. And so feel free to take a screenshot if you would like, or check out these slides after the counselor send it out. Next slide, please. And so these are a few pieces of advice that if I could give you. The first piece of advice is to definitely just start early. Senior year is really extremely busy. It's a lot of fun, and I feel like it kind of gets the rep that it's like the easiest year of high school, but in my personal opinion, it was my hardest year, balancing, like a full 0 through 6 course load, and then sports, and then just all the different senior activities, and then on top of that, college applications and homework. It just does get really busy, so try to start as early as possible. The next piece of advice is that this is your story and that this is your journey. So, it can be easy to look around and get discouraged at, what everyone else is doing and, what everyone else's like different successes and triumphs, but just know that your story is unique to you and that you have an amazing purpose in life and that things are going to work out. My next piece of advice would be to do your best, work hard on your essays, and just make them the best that they can possibly be, so that by the time you reach January, your senior year, you just have complete peace that you did your best on your applications and that this is the best that you could have done, and like it's all gonna work out. And finally, my last piece of advice would be to use your resources. Your counselors are here to support you, and so make time to find them at lunch if you have any questions, and make sure to use your school links as well. Next slide, please. And that's it for my presentation today. Thank you so much for listening to my journey, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And I
All right. Thank you so much, Molly. I am so proud of you. I think I just got a little bit glitchy, so hopefully you guys can hear me and everything is okay. That was wonderful, and I'm so proud of everything that Molly has done over the past several years at Claremont High School. All right, next, thank you guys so much for hanging on with us. We are going to go to our final presenter, which is Ms. Paula Hebert, and she's going to talk a little bit about ACT and SATs and the college admissions testing.
Thank you. All right. ACT and SAT are the two admission tests that U.S. colleges and universities sometimes ask for. And there's been a lot of changes in admission testing in the past 5 years. Some of the terms you're going to hear is test-free, like the UC and the Cal State, where they do not require tests. There are also test-blind colleges, which are basically test-free. And if you send them a test score, they're not going to look at it. And then there are test expected and test required colleges, and then test optional schools, which are schools that say you can send your scores, but it's not a requirement. And we'll talk more about these schools next. So admission testing varies a lot by the institution, and as indicated, the UC and the CSU system do not require admission testing at this time. If you are an aspiring athlete and you're looking to play sports in college, the NC2A also no longer requires admission testing like the SAT or the ACT. Next slide. About 75% of U.S. colleges and universities are currently test optional. Test optional colleges allow you to self-report your test scores if you've taken them. And over the last few years, we have seen that many test optional colleges have had a higher rate of admission for students who submit strong test scores. That's probably not too surprising because testing has traditionally been used as a factor in admissions, but test optional is that. You do have the option to submit your test scores and you have the option not to. One important consideration is looking at the selectivity of the school that you're applying to and the major that you are applying to if it's a test optional school. Very impacted majors such as nursing, biology, computer science, and business. Sometimes submitting a strong test score can be to your advantage. SchoolLinks provides information on the admission testing requirements of each college that you're looking at. So please do check that as you're doing your research this spring. And you can also check with the admissions office for up-to-date information because there has been a slight pendulum swing back to more test required schools. Next slide, please. All right. Test expected is a new phrase that we're seeing with a lot of schools. These are colleges that encourage their applicants to submit either the SAT or ACT score. And again, some colleges are showing that more than 90% of their accepted students did submit a test score. Keep in mind too that college admission offices are looking for reasons to admit you. These test scores are not something to fret about too much. They are looking at you as an applicant in every way, the kind of courses you take, your GPA you've earned, and the testing performance is one indicator. So we'll talk next about do you submit or not? These colleges do require the SAT or the ACT, and you can see that many of the colleges listed here are super selective colleges like Dartmouth and MIT, Georgetown, Caltech, and the U.S. service academies, the Air Force, the Naval Academy, etc., West Point, they also require admission testing. There are some schools also in Florida and Tennessee that also use SAT or ACT scores to award scholarships, but not necessarily for admissions. But if you are looking at super selective schools, do be sure to check their admission testing requirements because it is changing slightly across the board. What are the SAT and the ACT? Well, the SAT is got two components, evidence-based reading and writing and math. The score ranges between 400 to 1600, and the scale on each subtest is between 200 and 800. The College Board administers the SAT. They're the same people that also provide AP exams, but the SAT is an admission test. AP and IB exams are not. The ACT is a different test. It's comprised of 25% English, 25% math, 25% reading, and 25% on science, where you basically are looking at interpreting scientific information and answering questions. You're not asked to know specific theorems or postulates for this exam. And the ACT scores run between 1 and a perfect score of 36. Next slide. The admission testing for juniors is recommended to happen in the spring. Here's a screenshot from our website showing the ACT dates coming up in the spring and the SAT dates to the right. Generally speaking, there is a 4-week window between the test date and the registration deadline. And we recommend that if you're, say, looking at maybe taking the May 3rd SAT, not only should you register before April 18th, but maybe even make it 5 to 6 weeks so that you can find a testing site on a Saturday that's closer to home. Claremont High School does not host the SAT or ACT on the weekends, nor do we do SAT school day. So try to register way before that deadline so that you have a less of a drive on a Saturday morning. Next slide. There are admission testing also in the fall. You just saw a quick snapshot. This slide shows you on the CHS counseling website, we have listed the SAT and ACT, and if you click and hover over the letters, it'll take you to the ACT or College Board to register for SAT. And again, the calendar of upcoming tests is also on the website, as seen in the prior slide. Again, you can take the test once or you can take it twice. You can also choose to take the SAT and then maybe try the ACT. Some students naturally do better on one test or the other just because of the type of learner they are and the type of educational experiences they have. If you do repeat the SAT or the ACT, and maybe you test into the fall of your senior year, you can do that. And know that some colleges will super score, which means that if you took the SAT twice and you did better on the reading on the first time and you did better on the math the second administration of the test, they will combine the first and the second score together to super score, which gives you a stronger profile. Something to keep in mind if a school you're looking at is becoming more test required or encouraged. Next slide, please. So consider taking a test this spring. You can hold off also on sending your test scores to colleges. So when you register for either test, the SAT or ACT, which are fully digital exams now, you can hold your score for yourself and then send your scores later on if you're worried about your performance. Again, the SAT test dates are listed on our website. And if you're thinking about taking the SAT, Khan Academy has an excellent SAT prep for free. And we definitely have seen our students use that very successfully. Lastly, if you have financial need, there are fee waivers available for the SAT and ACT. They run roughly about $68 to $72. Talk with your counselor and we can help you bridge that fee gap if needed. Next slide. If you took the PSAT in October, that is not an admission test. It was a preliminary SAT to give students a idea of how they would perform on the SAT. So it's good practice for the SAT, and taking the PSAT as a junior was a smart move because it is the test in junior year that determines national merit scholarship eligibility, which will be announced probably in the next few weeks. The PSAT can also be a good tool for students to see their areas of growth and areas of strength to make sure that they're taking care of those academic needs in the school year to continue to move forward. And using the PSAT or taking the PSAT gives all students access to Big Future, which I think is an excellent tool in searching colleges and careers. And Big Future, while it is a College Board product, does have a really great interactive feature for students to help with their college search together with school links. Next slide. All right, we hope that that information was helpful for you. And I will turn it over now to Ms. Vogel.
Thank you all so much for joining us this evening and holding on for that presentation. It is a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you guys so much for joining us. I'd like to thank our presenters. They put so much time and energy the past couple of weeks into these presentations, and I truly think that it is an incredible benefit that the students of Claremont High School are able to have because of their knowledge and the help and resources that they are able to give. Thank you again for all coming and just investing in your college going future, no matter what that plan is. And I hope that you guys take this opportunity to now have conversations at home with each other with your parents, with your friends, to really start those plans for the future. Please remember that these slides, as well as a recorded version of this presentation, will be on our school's website. Again, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I hope to see you guys all next week, I believe February the 6th, for our Rising Senior Information Night to start scheduling for your seniors. Thank you again all so much for being here. Have a wonderful evening.